I come from a land down under where women glow and men plunder. Can you hear that thunder? You better run, you better take cover. Oh yeah. Well, that'll send you running. Who says we don't do sound clips on this channel? Hello everybody, welcome to a British Audiophile. For those of you who don't know me already, my name is Taryn. Today I'm taking a look at the Burson Timekeeper 3i integrated amplifier. In fact, it's a DAC, a preamp, a headphone amplifier, as well as an integrated amplifier, all in one compact, rather convenient and attractive looking box from Australian company Burson that has built its reputation over the years for producing some fine headphone amplifiers. So let's take a look and see what this thing is about. Before I get started, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. This video is not sponsored. No one influences what I say. The thoughts expressed in this video are purely my own, but this unit was sent to me via Adorama, and Adorama are a supporter of my channel, part of their affiliate program. So whenever I review a product that they happen to stock, they provide me with an affiliate link. If you want to purchase this unit and use that link, it does help out this channel. The Burson Timekeeper 3i retails for £2,100 in the UK. It's a little over half the width of a full-size rack unit, being 25 centimeters in girth and weighing 5 kgs. That's 9.8 inches and 11 pounds. The precision machined all aluminium chassis, faceplate, buttons and volume knob are all top quality build and finish, ensuring that there's no plastic in sight. The outer casework acts as a heatsink when the unit is in operation. It gets warm to the touch, so keep it well ventilated, but it doesn't get warm enough for you to worry about keeping it away from little fingers. The front fascia houses a 6.25mm 1/4-inch headphone socket if you want to use the integrated beefy 2-watt Class A headphone amplifier. There's also a mic input for gamers. Going from left to right, the first button can be used to access the various digital inputs and the sole analog one. The volume knob doubles up as a selector switch and you press it to confirm selection. The second button is for mode of operation, whether it's to be used for headphones, speakers, purely as a DAC or as a preamplifier. The settings button will allow you to access features to adjust the volume sensitivity, high or low gain, change the digital filter or alter the brightness of the OLED display. The final button adjusts the display from landscape to portrait. The Timekeeper 3i comes with a pretty neat little stand and a nifty little remote control to access basic functionality. At the rear you'll see a Bluetooth antenna, rather oddly a USB-C input, standard coaxial and optical digital inputs, analog RCA input and pre-outs. The speaker binding posts are quite close together, so be careful if you're using spade connectors. Before I take a look at the internals, let me just talk about a couple of interesting technologies that Burson employ within the Timekeeper 3i. The first is their two-stage power supply system. The first stage is a regular switch mode power supply brick. It's a good idea to keep it external because switch mode power supplies are quite electrically noisy, and also by keeping it external it helps to keep the size of the main unit to a minimum. The electrically noisy 24 volts fed from the switch mode power supply is then completely regenerated inside the Timekeeper 3i using Burson's maximum current power supply, MCPS for short. That has multiple stages and multiple power supplies operating at 170,000 Hz, way beyond the audible spectrum, and according to Burson at least, this gives a much quieter background than what you'd achieve from a linear power supply. The other technology that Burson are known for is building their own discrete op-amps that you normally find in the output stages of most of their devices, including the Timekeeper 3i. Burson believe that they can build their own op-amps which are superior to the integrated chips that you commonly find. The generic devices need to be as small as possible generally, and that places restrictions in terms of heat dissipation, as well as the fabrication process itself restricts quality due to most integrated chips being constructed from just one wafer of silicon. The unit comes standard with Burson's red Vivid op-amps, but you do have the option to switch them out to Burson's orange classic ones. That's supposed to give you a little bit more of that organic, warmer, fuller sound, but at the expense of a little bit of clarity. It's actually really easy to remove the top cover on this unit. All you have to do is unscrew the 4 bolts at the bottom with the supplied Allen key. It's a hex fitting, so leave those to one side, lift up the top cover. What you see is a very nicely laid out circuit board, which is always a good sign. This front section here on the right hand side is the max current power supply, and to the left of it is the power amp section. If we zoom in at the rear, you can see the preamp and DAC section. Those 4 brown rectangular devices are the crystal oscillators for the clock, and I presume those 2 black ICs next to them are the ESS 9038 DAC chips. It's a dual mono DAC, well regarded DAC chips from ESS. This board sticking up here with the XMOS processor is the USB interface board, and this is the Bluetooth module next to it. Over this side is the output stage with Burson's discrete op amps. These are the red Vivid op amps, but the orange classic op amps are also available for you to switch out if you wish. These 2 here are left and right for the low pass filter stage, and the other 2 are the IV stage, the current to voltage conversion stage, also sometimes referred to as the driving stage. If you're actually only going to switch out 2 op amps, I'd probably switch out the IV stage because that'll have the greatest impact on sound quality, but obviously you can switch out all 4, and there are op amps available from other companies as well for you to try out if you prefer the sound of them. Zooming back out again, I'm sure you can appreciate it's a very nicely constructed unit. If you're interested in how it sounded as a headphone amplifier, I'm sorry I didn't test out that feature. I know I should probably just buy a couple of pairs of headphones and start testing that out, but it hasn't really been my thing up until now. I might consider doing it in the future. So let me talk about how it sounded as an integrated amplifier. What struck me most about the Timekeeper 3i when I first sat down and started proper listening tests was how natural it sounded in the mid-range, and that's using the internal ESS 9038 based DAC. So why do I say that? Well, my experience of a lot of these internal DAC chips fitted to integrated amplifiers around this price, whether it's from ESS or AKM or one of the other manufacturers, is that they can sound very detailed, and this one sounds very detailed as well, by the way, but they also have a little bit of an artificial sound to them, especially when you're listening to acoustic instruments and vocals. That wasn't the case here at all. I'm sure a lot of that is down to Burson's discrete op amps. The output stage on a DAC has at least, if not more, bearing on the sound quality than the DAC chip itself. The background is very quiet, and that allows a little details to shine through, and the decay of notes is very easy to follow. I'd go as far as to describe it as inky black, and you have to give the credit here to Burson's power supply. The max current power supply seems to have done an excellent job of filtering out the switch mode power supply noise and shoving it out of the audible spectrum so it doesn't have a negative impact on sound quality. But I don't think it's perfect. It has a maximum current rating of 4 amps, and that's on the low side, even compared to more accessible amplifiers like the Audiolab 6000A that retails for £600 and has a maximum current rating of 9 amps. I suspect, but I can't say for sure, but that's the reason why I think the Timekeeper 3i lacks a little bit of oomph, a little bit of dynamic impact. Compared to some of the other amplifiers I've tried at around the same price, bass notes don't have the same weight. The Hagel H95 that I tested has slightly less detail, a similar natural mid-range presentation, but a greater sense of scale and authority. The Exposure 2510 that I also reviewed cost the best part of £1,700 on its own. You then have to add a decent quality DAC, something like the Denafrips Aries 2. You're looking at the best part of £2,500, but it will elevate your system to a higher level of sound quality. The rest of the performance is actually very good. Once you've accepted that this amplifier isn't the last word in scale and dynamics, you're going to find very little to complain about. The imaging, the location of instruments within the soundstage is rock solid. You could argue that the highs are a touch rolled off, but nothing to complain about. It just means that it's more suitable to partner with speakers that tend to be a touch on the bright side, where it will smooth off some of those rough edges. And that brings me nicely on to the next section. Is this Burson's first integrated amplifier? You know, I think it might be, but I'm not that familiar with the brand and I don't know its lineage, so I can't say for sure if there's any predecessor to the Timekeeper 3i. It's fairly clear to me that given Burson's heritage for producing headphone amplifiers, they intended the Timekeeper 3i to be primarily used for desktop and near-field use. That's where you have your speakers no more than 2 meters away from your listening position. And that's where you really play to the strengths of this amplifier. It has excellent tonality and very good levels of detail. Scale and dynamics when you're that close to your speakers tends to be a little bit of a non-issue. But I did try it with a whole bunch of speakers and I'll share with you my results. My Product Response 1 SEs were able to showcase the levels of detail and the tonal qualities that the Timekeeper 3i is capable of unearthing. But those of you who are regular followers of this channel will know that the Burson was never going to be able to drive the Proax properly. What it was capable of driving was the Sound Artist SC8B that I recently reviewed. That's a speaker with a 90 dB sensitivity, and if you're listening in a relatively small room where you can accommodate a speaker of that size, listening perhaps about 2 meters away, that's actually a very good combination. Another speaker that works is the Amphion Argon 1s. That has a bit of a smile presentation with a boost at the low frequencies and a little bit at the higher frequencies, and it balances the Timekeeper 3i effectively. That speaker will certainly work in a small room application, but it's actually small enough to be able to place at the end of your desk, perhaps a meter away, and it'll work pretty good in that desktop environment as well. The other Sound Artist speaker I have here at the moment is the LS35A replica. The BBC original was actually developed for desktop use and to use in outside broadcast vans. You might think that that's the perfect desktop solution, but for some reason the Timekeeper 3i and the LS35A didn't work well together. It might be the high impedance of that speaker, or it could be that the Burson is a little bit mid-centric and so is the LS35A. In any case, the two of them just sounded a little bit flat and lifeless together. I also tried the Timekeeper 3i as a preamp using the internal DAC. I swapped out my Exposure 21 Pre and connected it directly to my 18 Super monoblocks. It actually works really well as a DAC preamp, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be trading it in for my Exposure 21 Pre, but if you're looking at a DAC preamp at around £1,000, this is going to be as good as the best of them. So this is a tricky one. How do I evaluate the Burson Timekeeper 3i? It is a bit of a specialist piece with a lot of functionality, and also I don't think it's particularly fair to compare it to the best 2000 full-size units. I love the way it looks, I love the way it's built, I like its compact size, and I really like the fact that you can stand it up on one side to take up even less space on a desk. It has a very good DAC inside, and the preamp section is also very capable. I'm sure it's going to be a similar story with the headphone amplifier as well. For those of you who are looking for a desktop solution or something in a small room, this certainly should be on your shortlist. But as an integrated amplifier, that's where it comes with a few limitations, namely the sense of scale and dynamics. And at the best part of £2,000, I do think it should offer a little bit more flexibility. The Burson Timekeeper 3i gets a recommended from this channel. So that's it for me. If you like this video, please hit that like button, please share it. If you like what I'm doing with this channel and you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, and do check me out on Patreon. There's some Patreon only videos, and also for ABA club members, there's video call meetings that we're starting to do now, as well as some consultancy services that I offer. So for today, for now, a British audiophile signing off.